Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Rock Fantasy Files on the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel as we set the time machine to 1995 and discuss 5 albums from the black metal and genre. And we've got one band that's come more like black and death metal, but pick these 5 albums out as we suffer through the dark, cold, snowy winter here in New York. We'll discuss the debut album from Austrian black and death metal band Belphegor, The Last Supper, which was released on January 20th of that year. The fifth studio album from Norwegian black metal band Dark Throne, Panzerfaust, which was released June 1995. The debut album from Norwegian black metal band Dimmu Borgir, For All Tid, which was released March 15th, and the second studio album by Swedish black metal band Dissection, Storm the Light's Bane, released November 17th of that year. And last but not least, the third studio album by Norwegian black metal band Immortal, Battles in the North, which was released on May 15th. I've asked tonight's panel my guests to rank each album in order from 1 to 5, what they like the most and what they like the least, and pick, 2 songs or so from each. Tonight's panel, we're on the black metal scene tonight. Tony Dio and a couple of the other guys weren't into the scene a little bit, but we'll have them back next time. But we've got Miles of Metal back from Louisiana. He's not, black metal down there, and he's got to wrestle alligators and stuff. That's why he's not on every week. So we got Ove, of course, one of our black metal experts that stays up all night there. And it's morning there, probably for him now in Norway. We've got the Ravenous Ghoul back. And we've got James Delisle from Dissection Records and Crucial Pain. And of course, our resident metal expert and historian here, Count Ralphus, is in the house. So I guess we'll just go through from one person. Each will just go around once and we'll get your top 5. I think I'm just going to keep it simple tonight. And Denny Barth is not here because he's out playing hockey. He's usually, when we have this many bands, our scorekeeper. So maybe I'm going to try being the scorekeeper and keeping track of that. Unless Obi wants to help with that too. Obi's a good scorekeeper too. So anyhow, how about we let the Norwegian kick this off tonight? Are you worried? Should we wait?
No,
Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm just going to be this time's version of what you call it, of 11. I'm going to be the mean one.
The mean
I'm
one?
going to start. Yeah, I'm going to start with number 5. And for 5 for me is Dimmu Borgir with For All Tid. I'm not sure. I'm just going to pass it. I'm just going to say anything because people might like it. So for number 4, I'm going to go with Dissection.
I didn't hear your number 5. I couldn't hear what you said. What did you say?
Dimmu Borgir.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. It sounded so quick. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I prefer not.
I knew
to
you would
say
love
anything.
my shirt tonight. This is a
he has
vintage,
a shirt on. It's great.
it's a
Yeah,
vintage
yeah.
long sleeve from '95.
Wow, that
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
is. Yeah. Wow, look at that.
Yeah. As for number 4 is Dissection. I've never been a Dissection fan. I have their in the live from the past. I have their demos from 92, 93, and 91 maybe, and I like those demos. But that was before they turned into who they are, really. And so for me, I like songs I like on that album though is Retribution, Soul Reaper, and the Fathomless Depths is the 3 ones I like the most.
Mm-hmm.
For number 3, I'm going to go with Dark Throne with Panzerfaust. I bought that album when it came out back in '95. It was my first new Dark Throne album I ever got, so it's kind of special album for me, and it's not really, it's kind of a weird album because I don't know, it's very Celtic Frosty album, like half of it, and then you got uh, one like kind of keyboard song at the end, and then you have like two black metal songs that are like how we know them and how we are used to Dark Throne. So for me, it was like it was kind of a strange album, but it was my first Dark Throne album, so it's like that I bought that was new. As for songs, Ralph, can you pronounce the title on the sixth song? I don't know how you say it in English.
Oh, shoot, let's see. I need my glasses for make me put my glasses on, damn it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The
It's
sixth song is
Quintessence.
Quintessence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quintessence.
I really like that
You know who
song.
you know who wrote the lyrics to that song, right?
Yes, I do. It's our good pal Varg that keeps us warm in the wintertime. But yeah, and for number two is A Wind of Sorg. Also, it's A Wind of Sorrow. And number three, I have Hans Siste Winter, which is in His Last Winter in English. Number two, I got our brothers in arms from Austria, Belphegor, which I'm going to see live this summer. And this is their first album after they changed name from Kamikaze that they were back in 91 and 92. That's why the last song on the album is a cover of their own band, which I kind of find a little funny. Because
Okay.
it's not Kamikaze cover, but it's Belphegor before it became Belphegor. The album is kind of, I would like to say it's kind of, I would say this most brutal band or the album of this bunch. If we, like I've talked to Ralph before, if you're gonna get to the first album afterwards in my numbers, but the songs I really liked on this album was March of the Dead is my
Yep.
favorite on the album. It's a really good one, and Engulfed in the Eternal Forest is number two, and my third one is In Remembrance of Hate and Sorrow.
Cool.
And then it's kind of like no big thing, but it's like Immortal is of course number one. This album is kind of notorious, especially when it came out over here, because it's kind of I don't know. Well, they had a drummer on Pure Holocaust. They had a drummer called Grim, the blonde guy on the album, but he didn't play the drums on the album. He just played live, and I guess he wasn't up for the pace that they wanted for this album. And also, they give out the album, but there's some studio magic, you might call it, on the drums there, because Abbat can't play the drums that fast. Very few can at that time. So that's why Carl von Brumberg, or Hellhammer as we know him, played with them on that tour for that album, because he's the
Okay.
only one that could play that fast.
Wow.
Yeah, so they did all the magic there for Abbat play the drums on there, because I guess Scream didn't have the pace to, he couldn't play it either. So, and it was probably cheaper to record the drums themselves into hiring Hellhammer to do it. I don't know what the deal was there, but I know that the reason why they had him on the tour, because he was the only one that could play that pace, because the drums are zip. So technically, Belphegor album is harder and more brutal than the Immortal album, if you're gonna look at it that way. But of course, when you do a little magic, this one becomes the hardest one. As for songs, it's a really tough album to pick songs from. But I'm gonna go with Cursed Realms of the Winter Demons. That's my number one. That's my favorite song on the album. I'm gonna do the other way around, because that's a pure Demuna song. Number two, I'm gonna go with Moonrise on the Fields of Sorrow. And the third one is Descend into Eminent Silence.
Cool.
That's it for me, guys.
Awesome. I thank you so much. And I heard that you and Ralph was discussing this before, so I think I'm going to make Ralph go next. I want to hear Ralph's picks now.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm gonna go with Dimmu Borgir as number 5 too. And I just wore the old long sleeve just to piss Ove off. I knew he would be like, but
that's a cool shirt though.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's
I like
vintage.
that album
Probably go for quite a bit of money in it.
I
And
expect so.
my copy of the CD
where did you buy that shirt? How long
I
have you
think
had it
I
for
must have
years?
got. I think I got it from Yench back when he had his little distro because
Okay,
he had
yeah.
a lot of this rare black metal stuff that I got was kind of through him. Like I got an original copy. Like if you get this album today, it's got all color in it and stuff. This is the
That's the
original version.
original.
This is the original version of it.
Worth a lot of money.
And this one, the Panzerfaust too, it's an original version of it. And a lot of these things came out later on, like this is the original digipack, but then I got the double CD version of it. But the only one I didn't have was the Belphegor. But my number 5, Dimmu Borgir. When I heard this album at the time, I liked it because it was like we had 100 bands that all were copying Bathory, and there was a lot of underground black metal bands doing the whole Bathory thing, and everybody was kind of doing it the same. But productions were changing and bands were starting to add stuff. So I liked that they were kind of original at the time. I didn't end up following them for a long time. I've seen them a few times and they were cool live, but I was never like a big fan of them. But I thought when they first came out, I was like, all right, cool. This is something a little different. And if that helped other bands go in that direction too, it was a good thing because too many bands were sounding the same. So then my number 4 is going to be the Dark Throne. And I love Dark Throne, and they're all over the place with their albums. They're very experimental band, but the problem with this album is they rip off Celtic Frost so bad at times. There's like some riffs that are like right out of like a Celtic Frost song. Like I was waiting for the lyrics to start and thinking like they got different lyrics, but it's the Celtic Frost. So I mean, they just really copy them. But I like that they're influenced by them. But sometimes some of the riffs are just too close. But I still think it's a good album. I just I just a little bit unoriginal with that. And later on in their career, the singer singing exactly like Tom Warrior at times. I mean, he's like identical on like some of the newer albums. So they always had that Celtic Frost vibe, and that's a good vibe to have. It just you got to be a little bit more original with it. But like the song
the reason behind this is because Panzerfaust is recorded purely by Fenris.
Yeah.
Dr. Nukulta has vocals on the song number 1 and the last track. Everything else is Fenris, and Fenris is a Celtic Frost
fanatic. Yep.
Yeah, so Dr. Nukulta had very little to do with this album.
So my number 3, I forget how I wrote these down. Okay, so yeah, my number 3 is going to be Belphegor. It's the only album that I don't own out of all these, and but I think it's great. I got a picture here with Helmuth when I met him down in New York City at a show.
Nice,
I forget what show it was. It was a show they played, but it was like a bunch of bands. I can't remember. It was at that
Was that the Gramercy?
No, not the Gramercy. The place that had shows all the time, but then they changed the name a bunch of
BB
times.
King?
No, it was the wrestling place for a while.
Oh, it was, you're talking about the
PlayStation Theater that turned into Best Buy Theater.
Best Buy Theater, PlayStation Theater. It kept switching names.
You've seen them. Yeah, they were there one year with Creator. They were warming up Creator, and they got there very, very late. So late they almost didn't play. And I saw them guys because I know Helmuth, and they were like they got there just in time. Like they were literally like they had somebody was setting up like their t-shirt booth in the back hall. I remember you being there now. My wife was there with me too. I'm pretty sure Creator was the headliner. There were like 4 or 5 bands.
Yeah, like 4 or 5. Yeah, I remember it was a bill with a bunch of bands.
Yep.
What year was it?
I don't know. It was in the no, it wasn't in the 90s. Probably
it was in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Okay, that's better. Oh, where it will be really hard with like Outcast and kind of like that time of Creator when they were experimental would be kind of.
No, it was when Creator was probably like Hordes of Chaos or Enemy of God or something like.
Okay, okay.
And it was a mid, like I'd say mid 2000s, something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I got most of their albums that I bought most of their CDs.
Sure.
I'm missing a couple of them, but that was definitely one that I didn't have.
Obi
it's cool, like to
mentioned
see when you see the original cover of it with like the Last Supper, but it was
yes.
like gory as hell. And yeah, Impalement Without Mercy, March of the Dead, Rapture of Cremation, Drowned in Excrements. It's a great brutal album. It's heavy the whole way. I really liked it. If I listened to it more and more, I did have a burned copy of it, but my burned copy CDs I don't pull out that much. But it was really good. But it's got to be number 3. So then now between 1 and 2, this was freaking hard for me because I love both of these albums, but I got to go for number 2. I got to go with Dissection, and I got the 2 copies here, the digipack and the double disc. This one has like demo on here and stuff, but got a whole bunch of stuff on here, extras, remix versions and stuff like that. Really cool. Never got to see them live. They played BB King's once in America, and I think it was the only time they ever came to America. I don't think it was even like a real big tour. Not that I think they might have just played a couple shows. And I know he ended up killing himself like couple months later.
I don't think that show even happened because I had a ticket for that show. Unless it was a show that was coming on later, I had a ticket for that show that never happened at BB King.
Yeah, maybe it didn't happen. I remember it was like something that sold out right away, and I didn't have tickets for it.
I had a ticket for it. That's when I was going to everything. Everybody was coming to BB King's then. We were talking about that. Me and McAtee were talking about it at the Gramercy, like BB King's. Like we were at BB King's for that was like the place for like in the early 2000s. Everything came there, death metal and black metal. Emperor played there. It was
I hated that place. That place sucked.
You didn't like it?
Oh, it was horrible. If it was a packed house, there was one bar, and like
the bar was
it was impossible. Right? You're taking 4 or 5 songs to get a beer. It was ridiculous.
Was it that bad?
You couldn't move.
I always liked it there, but I mean,
it
was the only place I had.
I seen Manowar there, and it was like
you did.
Get to the bar. You couldn't get to the bar. It was
was that metal tour? We're way off subject, but that's what I think people enjoy these conversations. Was that the Manowar tour that had like Halford and Immortal on it?
No, this was a one-off show at the time. It was the only show in America for years at that point.
I don't think I was there.
Until recently, actually, I think they played like 2 more shows in America, or like on the East Coast, but they have barely played any shows until they recently played there.
Yeah,
and that was a long time ago. But I went to a few shows there, and it was just it got so packed sometimes that you just couldn't move in there. I don't like that kind of shit. But
that was the only place for many, many years, other than like what was it, Roseland, Webster Hall, but everything seemed to go there. I remember hanging out there with like Glenn Benton one night, and DSI was playing, and he was hanging out on the sidewalk and fucking with people, and it was a memorable night. Immolation. Every time you'd go to a show there too, in that time, like Immolation would come to every show and hang out, support the other bands.
Oh yeah, you always see the same crowd coming.
Them guys lived there.
Yep, they were real fans of the scene. They didn't. You kind of wonder where's all these other New York bands that, why didn't you see everybody at these shows?
Yeah, they were always there, and certain ones were there. But I'll let you continue. I'll keep interrupting you.
Well, my number 1, Immortal. Here's my picture with him when they played the March Metal Meltdown.
Nice.
And I got
that's a while ago.
I got the original Osmos digipack, and I got this at Rock Fantasy when it was re-released on vinyl, of course. But this album, man.
I don't have the gate. I don't have the gatefold. Mine is just.
That's weird.
This is
yours is probably. That's probably older.
this is an Osmos, but I don't know. Yeah,
this is too, but
it's got the slide out.
This has got the
lyrics.
the splattered vinyl.
Oh, I didn't even look to see what mine is. Just black vinyl.
So yeah, you might have like more of an original copy.
I don't know. I don't know how old this is. So who knows? But
I know just by the vinyl on this that it's not. They didn't.
Did you guys say that you watched Dissection live at Wetlands Preserve in New York?
Wetlands? No, I never went to Wetlands.
They played there in
I went there.
They played there?
Maybe.
Yeah, in '96.
Okay.
And they,
yeah,
and
I
they,
wasn't around.
and they played it Morbid Angel and At the Gates.
Wow.
Wow.
I was surprised they got into the country with the guy John had been in jail for murder.
That's what before he did kill the guy in '97.
Okay. It made it in.
Yes. So I don't even have to mention any of the songs off the Immortal. The whole album's great. It's definitely the album that I listened to the most, but it was between this and Dissection because I really like that Dissection album. Yeah. They had such a the way Dark Throne had such a Celtic Frost feel. I felt like Dissection had a real destruction feel. Like they had those destruction kind of riffs. Didn't sing like them or nothing, but that had that destruction vibe. Definitely had a more thrash vibe. They're a little bit melodic, where the Immortal is just pummeling the whole way, and it's the kind of way I like black metals being like that. So yeah, the Immortal's classic.
Cool. Who do I go to next here? How about we bring up the Ravenous Ghoul next, and then we'll go to James, Miles, and I'll round things off tonight. Ravenous, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. I always appreciate it.
Thanks for joining.
Okay, I'll jump right into it. I mean, the number 5, I have Belphegor, The Last Supper. Okay. Belphegor, as much as I love black metal, and black metal is my favorite subgenre of metal, Belphegor I haven't heard much of just for some reason I never got around to it, but I've heard The Last Supper several times, but not enough for me to give an accurate or thorough assessment. So as a result, I had to rank it number 5 until I can play it a lot more. But I did like what I heard. It's great. So, okay, number 4, here's an album that I have heard a lot, is Dark Throne, Panzerfaust. First of all, the 4 albums these 4 next albums, they all could have been all over the place. I just had to, some album had to land number 4, so I picked Dark Throne, probably because I just heard it so much, and I just haven't, I don't know where else to put it. That whole album is great. The highlights for me would be let's see, which one was it? I have my list right here. Sorry, I'm not ready. Hans Sist Winter, I like. Quintessence is great. I mean, the first track, Envin out of Sorg, was also excellent. So I have that as number 4. Next up, I have the Dimmu Borgir album for All Tid. That album I really like a lot. A little bit more melodic in style, which is fine. That's another great record. What I have here as highlights for me would be, let's see, where is it? Is that the right list? Hold on. Sorry, I have multiple lists here.
That's fine.
And I love the artwork too. That's a great t-shirt you have on count. Here we are. Glittertine, I really like a lot. Under Corpus Vinger is great. But the entire album is fantastic. That's one I don't own, and I need to get my hands on that. Even the CD, I'll be happy to own. So moving on to number 2, I have Dissection as Storm of the Light's Bane. That's a brilliant album. I really love the melodies, and I love everything about that record. That one I also don't have. I don't have a hard copy. I regret. I wish I did. I was looking on it. I was looking just now online, and I'm not having much success finding it, but I'll search a lot more later. The number 1, I have Immortal. Immortal has always been my favorite black metal band. I love everything they do. I don't remember when I first heard the Immortal Battles in the North album, but I recall that when I first played it, it hit me like when it came on, it was just so powerful. It just kind of like exploded into a room. And my reaction was like, what the fuck is going on? But I was actually literally like alarmed because it just sounded so much different from the other Immortal albums, just so raw, so powerful, relentless. So that right there just it was actually a bit I was a bit overwhelmed just trying to assess the album and adjust to the much greater pace, which is just the album's just going at 200 miles an hour compared to some of their other records. So, but after I adjusted, I went through the whole album, and it's hard for me to pick one song. I don't know what songs to choose, but I mean that whole album is just perfection from beginning to end. And I would love to learn more about how they made that album, just because that pace that they followed was just seems almost superhuman. In
It's a bit big.
some ways.
That's what Ove was talking about.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised to hear that
Magic, black magic was an Ove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, just regarding that album, I did read a book. I don't know which one it was actually. Was it It might have been this book. I have the black metal book. This one, I think it was there where I read that they were still teenagers when I made that album, and I think they went out into the snow dressed in their black metal gear, and I think it was Abat's father or maybe Demonas's father who just had them pose and just in different ways, and he took the picture of the artwork. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So
cool.
Anyway, Immortal #1. So love them. So that's all I got.
Excellent.
They had to drag all their equipment to that mountaintop for recording that music video too. They had to carry that shit all the way up that hill, and that was a lot of stuff. Just another input with the Dimmu Borgir is kind of funny because their keyboard player that wasn't a member of the band yet and was a member of the next album, he kind of got ditched from the band because a lot of the melodies from the Dimmu songs is taken from Commodore 64 and Amiga games.
Wow.
So they got copyright issues because of that, because Stian, as it's called, ripped Amiga and Commodore games off to make those keyboards melodies. That's why the melodies are so familiar to people.
Cool.
And Ravenous, this version with the double CD came with demos and the remixes and everything. I just got this in the last like 6 months or so.
Where did you get it?
I can't remember. And actually, it's the weirdest thing. I ordered something else, and this came on accident. And instead of returning it, I complained to the people saying, "Hey, you sent me the wrong CD," because I already had the original Digipack one. And I said, "Hey, I complained about it, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep it anyway because they would want me to send it back. And I was like, oh, this got a whole extra CD and shit. And I was like, this is a great album. And then I just ordered the one that they didn't send me. But maybe it was right off of Amazon. But
I mean, I have as we've been talking, I've been searching on Amazon and other places, and I have right here in front of me the Dissection album, reissued, remastered, and for some reason this copy here, it's a CD. Selling for $162.
Wow.
Holy shit. Yeah. That's this one that they sent me on accident. That's the one they sent me on accident.
Pretty good deal.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I'm just a little puzzled as to why that's so high. But
I think it's usually when they got like 1 or 2 left, all of a sudden they skyrocket the price because no one's putting out another version of it.
Maybe. There's even used copies for selling for $68 on Amazon.
I got the same one as Ralph. I got this one off of Amazon.
Okay.
But it was very hard to find. I'm not going to lie. I paid probably like $30 for it.
How long ago did you buy that, Miles?
About 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But there are other places where I'm going to look. Like I do shop at hellsheadbangers.com. So
that's a good place.
Yeah, I got some good stuff there. I'm looking there. I haven't checked this section yet, but I will. So I'll be searching.
Before I pop over to someone else, Ravenous, you said you want just to mention a couple other albums that you were inspired from '95? Yeah, we'll let you do that now if you like.
I mean, thank you. I mean, there were just some other great albums also that came out that year. Just to mention quickly, Behemoth's debut album, Sventivith, the over-released Bergtat, and then also Gehenna released Seen Through the Veils of Darkness, which is a superb record. So anyway, a lot of good music that year for black metal.
Cool. James, how are you, sir?
Very good.
I woke you up there.
Dealing with the fucking seasonal depression and hating it.
But we're doing a black metal episode to cheer you up because you're supposed to rally around all these ice and snowstorms now.
Absolutely. The Dissection album has been good for my bad mental health.
I hope music can help, I guess, at times, right?
Absolutely.
That's true.
So 3 of these albums I had never even heard before. But I did my homework and I checked them all out. Absolutely. So I guess number 5 for me would be the Belphegor record.
Okay.
I didn't dig it at all. I felt like it was here's the thing with me with black metal. I'm very picky. I like melodic black metal more than anything else. I like black metal bands that change things up a little bit. I get very bored and ear fatigued with blast beating. So if you're throwing in a little thrash and melodic parts and maybe some new wave of British heavy metal influences where there's lots of melody and harmonies and stuff, that's what's going to keep me interested in black metal. So when it's just a lot of fucking straight up pounding, just blast beats, I really start to get bored, man. And I just can't, it makes my ears tired. You know, there's no other way I can explain it. It's like a musician thing when you hear people talk about ear fatigue. So the Belphegor album was just, for me, it was a lot of that, and I didn't find anything on it that really stuck out, anything that made me want to listen to it again, anything that made me want to buy it. I thought it was kind of blah.
Okay.
Number 4 for me would be the Dark Throne album. I didn't find anything in that really stood out for me either. I like later Dark Throne where they're more black and roll. There's a lot of tunes in their later stuff that I dig where it's like, all right, that's catchy. That like makes me want to go back and hear that tune again. Maybe even want to hear that album again. Didn't find anything in Panzerfaust that really impressed me or made me want to go back to it. Thought it was personally, I thought it was kind of lame. And I felt exactly the same way about the Dimmu Borgir album. I like later Dimmu Borgir better. I thought this one was just kind of stale. I thought both the Dark Throne and the Dimmu Borgir albums just had really bad production. Just not my thing, man. Just not my thing at all. I just thought that they were fucking boring. And, you know, again, just ear fatiguing me. Just the constant blast beating is, you know, and not really changing things up and not really giving me harmonies and melodies or, you know, give me some breakdowns, give me some thrash parts, you know, it just kind of bored the shit out of me. Now, the 2 albums out of this that I do know and own, I'm going to say Immortal's number 2. I don't go back to this Immortal album a lot. It kind of sits in my collection and collects dust. Ovi was talking about there being magic with the drums. Oh boy, if there's magic, then they need to get their money back because there's some parts in this album where the drums are just like really bad. They're really off time to the point where I'm like almost embarrassed for the guys. Like I would be embarrassed to hand this over to the record label and say, here's what we got. There's moments that are cool. I like the very end song on here, Blashirk, Mighty Raven Dark, is cool because there's like that weird, creepy thing at the end that's just kind of like bass going on and, you know, Abath talking in the background. It's really cool and really different. That's what stands out to me is like there's something different here. Again, this one is just an assault of blast beats, and it just kind of bores me. I love later Immortal. I love At the Heart of Winter, Damned in Black. I even like the couple newer albums that don't have Abath on them. Northern Chaos Gods is very good.
Great
Sons
album.
of Northern Darkness. I dig the later Immortal. I feel like the early stuff, they're still very young. They're still getting their beaks wet. They're figuring out who they are. And I feel that way with this album as well. I feel like it's a bottom of the rung Immortal album. I understand a lot of what is appealing about black metal is the speed and the blast beating and the attitude, and it's not supposed to really be about the production being great. You know, people make the same argument about early Misfits, why early Misfits were so great. But just for me, that production, sometimes it's like a knife going into my eardrum and I just can't handle it. So yeah, I guess my favorite track off this Immortal record would be Blashir, Mighty Raven Dark. I have a different cover on my Immortal album. Osmos re-released this a few years ago, and it's like a snow scene with, if you look really close, Abath and Demonaz are in the back, like chilling. Wow. And yeah, so there's that. So obviously,
does it have the EP on it? Does it have the EP Unholy Black Metal on it?
No, it doesn't. It's just the album, and it's been remastered.
Okay.
So obviously that leaves one more album, and I have loved this Dissection record since it came out. A buddy of mine who was a next door neighbor of mine was a big black metal guy, and, you know, tried to get me into all these bands, and he made me a copy of this when it was brand new. And this was the first black metal album I ever heard that made me really stand at attention and go, wait a minute, I really love this. There's so much melody and harmony going on in this album. So many cool thrash riffs, so much cool galloping and like weird grooves. Like in Unhallowed, there's just this really cool thrash gallop in it that's just unbelievable. The guitar lines in Where Dead Angels Lie is just so catchy, and there's just a great hook there in that lead riff that gets into your head and you want to hear it over and over again. Thorns of Crimson Death is fantastic. Soul Reaper is awesome. There's not a bad moment on this. I really dig this album a lot. For me, this is a earmark and a standard for me personally for black metal. If you're not giving me stuff that sounds like this, give me a mixed bag. Blast beats are cool, but I want you to go somewhere else. I want you to give me a little atmosphere. I want you to give me a little sludge, a little doom or something, like what Goat Whore is one of my top favorite black metal bands of all time, because they give you some punk, they give you some sludge, they give you some thrash. And this album gives me different flavors in it. So this one's my number one.
Okay.
And I love everything Dissection's ever done, man. A lot of people shit on the last album, Rain Chaos, because they say it sounds like an In Flames ripoff. First of all, I love In Flames. And second of all, I think that Rain Chaos album, the writing on that was so damn good. John Notfield was a great writer, and it's a shame that he ended his life way too soon. I would have liked to hear more Dissection music as his life and career went on, but for the album cover alone, you gotta love this one. So
they invented, or they are kind of like the ones that are credited for inventing melodic black metal. They started that whole thing.
Absolutely.
All righty, cool. Thank you, James. We're gonna move down to New Orleans and see the miles of metal. Louisiana, not exactly New Orleans, but Louisiana. He was in New Orleans over the weekend, though. He said he was hanging out. He wasn't at the Super Bowl, but he was partying at the Super Bowl parties.
Yeah, I was down there in New Orleans. Cleanest I've ever seen New Orleans before. It was nuts. I was getting nervous because it was too clean. I was like, this shit's too clean right here.
They
But
cleaned the place up.
yeah. So yeah, 1995. Some of these records I've heard all of these records before, some more than others. So it was cool going back and checking out these albums. Two of these albums I listen to regularly. But coming at the last spot, I'm gonna go Dimmu Borgir. Um, I don't I don't absolutely hate this record, but it's one of those records where if I hear it every once in a while, I'm fine. I'm with Ovi. The the keyboard parts on here do sound familiar and they sound like they're from a Commodore game. It just doesn't really the keyboards just really don't click with me on this record. But what I find interesting about this record is that back to what Ralph was saying is that Dimmu Borgir had their own style. And I'm not a big fan of theirs, but I always respected that they stayed with that style. And this is like the birth of that style because you can definitely, if you heard old Dimmu Borgir and then you went back and listened to this, you can see how this is the genesis to their sound moving forward. So I always thought that was interesting about this record, but not much. This is probably the record I found most enjoyment with listening to this whole listening process. But yeah, so that comes in the last spot for me. Coming in at number 4, and it's actually surprising being that I'm a big fan of this band, but it's actually Panzerfaust by Dark Throne. I'm with Ralph, man. They went way too fucking close to Celtic Frost. There was a couple times where I can point it out. Fucking triumphant gleam.
Oh my God, it's exact.
I
It's like
thought
Yeah.
when Nocturnal Culto started singing, started doing his vocals, I swore to God this was a Celtic Frost song.
Nocturno doesn't sing on that song. He sings on number 1 and number 7 or 6. He
Whoever
sings on the
and it's
whoever's
the
on that
vocals. The
song,
vocals is the only thing that actually doesn't sound like Celtic Frost on this
yeah,
album. On later albums, the vocals are just like Celtic Frost, but the music isn't such a rip off. But
it's so.
there's riffs that are exact out of Celtic Frost.
And I've never heard Ralph say this before, but I'm gonna just say how right he is. I call this the Celtic Throne record or the Dark Frost record because
Dark
it sounds
Frost.
so much. And Ovi, who does most of the vocals on here?
Fenris. Fenris does all the
He had
vocals
to be
besides the number
drunk.
1 and number 7
He had to
He
be
had
rough.
to
or
be
6.
he had to be absolutely blitzed out of his mind because that's one thing I really I I I think the riffs are cool even though they're so close to Celtic Frost, but the vocals on here, oh my God, they're so high up in the mix and it just throws me off. It's just
I
like
think he recorded it in his bedroom. He recorded like the whole thing in like his
and
bedroom.
I heard it was Nocturnal Culto and he was drunk as hell when he did it. And it sounds close to that because I'm like, holy crap, he does sound stoned. But it's just a record. I own it. I do like it. There are some songs I really do think are really good, like Hordes of Nebula. I think that one's I really like that song. But a lot of this record is too close to Celtic Frost where it's damn near plagiarism and the vocals just throw me off. So that comes in at number 4. The number 3 record is actually a record that I heard before. I think I only heard it once, but going back, this was probably the record I listened to the most, and that's Belphegor, The Last Supper.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this record was brutal as hell. Um, I would almost classify this mostly as a death metal record. Yeah, it's got the
Yeah.
black metal.
I
Yeah, it's
agree.
got the black metal influences in it, and I know Belphegor throws a lot more black metal later on. but this is almost straight death metal, and death metal is my favorite subgenre. And so this was like I heard it in passing before, but this is when I really sat down and really paid attention to the record, and I loved it. March of Death is fucking great. Bloodbath in Paradise is awesome. DIE, The Remembrance of Hate and Sorrow, just a great record. Yeah, it's blasting, it's pounding, but I thought that some of the riffs on there, I love how it's blasting for most of the songs, and then it just breaks down into a nice, almost doomy incantation like riffs in these songs, and I thought they were so just great stuff right there. So number three is Belphegor. Number one and number two, definitely my favorite records by both of these bands. Very hard to pick out of these two, but I'm gonna go with Immortal, Battles in the North. This is my favorite Immortal record. Like everybody's been saying, it's 200 miles an hour from start to finish, and I love it. I don't care how sped up the drums are or whatever like that. I just love that it's just a fucking train going off the tracks the whole time.
Still somehow catchy. It's somehow catchy at times, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and
That
like,
fast and then to be catchy still.
yeah, and then the last song, oh, the Mighty Raven
Raven.
Dark. Oh man, I love that song to death. Um, Moonrise Fields of Sorrow, just great stuff. The title track, Battles in the North, great stuff. My favorite Immortal record. So that just leaves me with number one. Definitely, this is definitely one of my favorite records. Probably one of my favorite black metal records. But you know, Dissection, Storm of the Lights, Bane. To me, this is such a special record in black metal. Now I know black metal is not supposed to be commercial or whatever like that. But when I knew that this record was like kind of like special, and I always recommend this record for people that don't like black metal. If you really want to get into black metal, first one you need to listen to is Storm of the Lights Bane, and that'll get you into the vocals and everything.
Yes.
My wife hates everything I listen to. She does not like metal. She does not like anything. I was listening to Storm of the Lights Bane one time, and I was listening to Where Dead Angels Lie. She actually walked into the room and said, "That's a catchy tune." For her to say that about this record, my mouth hit the floor. I was like, "There's no fucking way she just said that about this record."
Yep.
It's one of the best melodic black metal records ever released. There's not a bad moment on here. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. Um, Where Dead Angels Lie, great song. My favorite off of here is Thorns of Crimson Death. Oh, it's so epic, and just the riffs on there, just so great. One thing I like about Jan Notveit is that what you get on the albums is how he sounds live. He sounds just like this live, and it's fucking incredible how good his black metal vocals are live, especially. They're so good. And I'm with everybody else. He left on his own volition, and what I read that, you know, it was kind of whatever it was, he did it because he felt like he couldn't do anything more or whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of like, what more could he have given us? Yeah, he went too soon. But when you follow that kind of lifestyle and what he believed in, I guess that's what you do. So definitely number one, Storms of the Lights Bane. And actually, Ryan Kaus, I knew you were talking about the lyrics to it, Jamie. You know what those lyrics are about?
What's that?
Yeah, Rain Chaos.
What's that?
Oh, it's like his satanic Bible. He basically
Yeah,
wrote
that's
that.
like all the satanic grimoire shit that he
Yeah,
was
his
had
all
been
the
reading at
stuff
the
that
time.
he was into and stuff like that, and all like the memoirs and stuff. That's what
Yeah.
that record was about.
You guys
no
all
doubt.
seen this live DVD?
Yeah, that is
Dissection?
great.
I used to have
That
that.
is
I don't know
good
where the hell
stuff.
that went.
I gotta get that.
That is good stuff.
Good. I wonder if you could even find it nowadays.
Yeah, that's something that don't
I
get
just gotta correct
reprinted. They don't
myself.
reprint them.
Dark Throne, Nocturnal Culto sings on the first 6 songs. It's just he sings not normal. That's why it threw me off.
No, it ain't normal at all.
Well,
he had a few
Fenrez did
brewskis
everything
before he
else
went do that.
except for yeah.
Yeah.
And really quick, Ravenous Ghoul, before you were mentioning Behemoth, you said they put out their first album in '95.
Yeah, the debut, unless I'm mistaken, but I was looking it up
I
before.
thought so too.
What was the one that you said for
the what?
What was
The Sventevith.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
they had these two came out in like one's in it says 95 on here, but on the computer it says 93 for
Yeah.
these. But
Oh, okay.
and these are original copies. And I pulled out the Gehenna. I pulled out an original CD version of the Gehenna
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
I need to get that.
that he talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I just figured I'd grab them.
Cool. So as we round this up and end up with me right now, Immortal is 3 for number 1, and Dissection has 2 number 1s out of the 5 entries tonight. So I guess I could make this a tie or break the tie or whatever else. So I guess I'll just give my picks. A couple of these albums I hadn't listened to in quite a few years. One would be the Dimmu Borgir. I liked them a lot, and I liked them a lot back in the day. I haven't listened to them as a whole in many years. When they went and turned into what we called the Planet Dune, they got rid of some of their members and went in white suits, and I saw them in Philadelphia headlining over Enslaved and Merrimack. Enslaved were great, and we were all kind of like, what happened? They got rid of ICS Vortex and things went downhill, and I kind of stopped listening to them as a whole after that. But I did like a lot of their stuff. This one I remember listening to a couple times, and I tell you, like a lot of stuff I really like when the lyrics are in English, even though we are a black metal episode. And the songs I do like, I mean, I do like the album. I listened to it today, but I think back then I didn't really give it a real chance. Because I started way after that and went back a little bit. But the Glitterton, the Stein were a couple songs I thought were good. But I listened to the album a couple times this week after we picked it out. My number 4 is the Dark Throne. I'm glad you guys mentioned it because I hadn't listened to that in years. I never was too big into Dark Throne in general, but I was like, man, this sounds like Celtic Frost. I was listening to a lot of these albums when I wake up in the morning. I play a video game. I was like, well, let me listen to these records, do my homework, and I really felt that Celtic Frost influence with it. And I really liked the Triumphant Gleam song. Beholding the Throne of Might was another of the highlights I thought for me that I marked down. The Belphegor will come in at number 3. And to mention, Obi said he's going to see Belphegor this summer. He said coming to Norway. They're actually touring the United States, North America, and Canada too. I imagine that tour is coming around pretty soon. I think it's in April, and they have Arcona from Russia supporting them, and I forget what the third band is, but they are, if someone's watching and wants to go check out Belphegor, they are coming on tour, so check it out if you want to go. The March of the Dead I thought was great. Engulfed in Eternal Frost, and I had the title track, The Last Supper, down. Years ago, I can tell a little Belphegor story. We were supposed to be doing this Death in the Forest festival, and it was going to be at the Orange County Fair Speedway. Originally it was in Anthony Wayne Memorial in Bear Mountain State Park. And then it got moved to Middletown. And the guy that was promoting this was bringing in Belphegor in 1349 for their debut shows in America. And I was in contact with Belphegor and 1349 because we were getting set to do an in-store with both of the bands and a couple of the other bands that were part of the package. It was I think it was a one-day show originally, and it ended up bopping around from place to place. The guys didn't have insurance to run the fest, became pretty famous in the area. And like I had an in-store going on because it kind of ground to a halt the night before the show. And I had people in my store from around the country, people that flew in to film the show. There were fans that came in. There were bands that came around, and we had a mix match of those people in my store with not even knowing if there was a show. And the last minute, they did find a venue in New York City, which wasn't a normal metal venue. It was like a gay bar or something, and it was like 4 stories. And I remember my employee and we had a table there, a merch booth, and of course Belphegor didn't come in the States. They were waiting, I think, at the airport, as were 1349, and they never came in. But I always talked to Helmuth from that point on, and then they finally came into the States, whatever year it was, and I've always go up and try to support them and see them and talk to them when I see Helmuth and the crew. But that was my
so you did end up going to the city for that show, huh?
Yeah, I did. I was there. I forget who was there. I think
Immolation.
Immolation. It says Immolation.
Wasn't anal cunt on that?
Yeah, they were there. Skinless was there.
Yeah, I remember I was planning on going to the show, and then they dicking around with where the hell it was.
It was like
at the last minute.
There was a band from California, and the guy that was in that band used to work for one of the record companies. I think it was Impaled. It wasn't Impaled.
Yeah, Impaled was.
That was Impaled. They were there.
They were a really good death metal band.
And it was lightly attended because I think a lot of people didn't think it was happening, and
they didn't know where.
I think you guys weren't there, but I remember Will Raymer had a booth selling his merchandise there. I don't remember if Mortician played or but anyhow, the show did happen in the end. But I still have some newspaper articles somewheres. I mean, in the old stuff before I moved from, like, we had like the cable news TV people at the store the night before, and it was an interesting time. So the Belphegor was number 3. The Dissection, I hadn't listened to that in many years again, but I used to listen to that album all the time. Like Ralph said, I had tickets to see them in the 2000s, and I don't think that show ever happened. And Night's Blood, I'm going to go with for one of my tracks on the album, as At the Fathomless Depths, another song that I like a lot. But my number 1 from this battle or comparison will be Immortal, with the battles in the north. Of course, I love the title track. I like the grim and frostbitten kingdoms, the cursed realms of winter demons. And it's like I said, album start to finish, it's Immortal to me. Maybe it is a little raw, the production and all, but hey, most people are like James was saying though before, most people in the black metal scene like the raw production. Like Obi likes the raw production. He doesn't like the melodic stuff. He gets upset when we like keyboards in it.
That's why the Belphegor, he likes the Belphegor a lot. And that's like a really raw, like Ravenous. If you go back to the 2022 album, but The Devils by Belphegor, it's like so different than what you listen to for this. So give that album a chance. And they got so many albums and so many way better productions, and they just got better as musicians as time went on. But they're one of the really great bands out there.
I tell you, so Immortal, I guess, breaks the tie and kind of takes this little victory over 1995. It wasn't really a battle, though. It's just a comparison of some albums from that year, and I agree with you guys that the Belphegor was more of a death metal record.
Yeah.
I got a little story behind where I found this at. I
Where'd
was
you
in a
find
record
that?
I was in a record store in Baton Rouge,
Mm-hmm.
and I was they usually got some good CDs and stuff, but like, you know, pop and Michael Jackson or whatever. Well, I found this little box underneath everything, way at the bottom. I had to get on my hands and knees. It was at the bottom. And it had a whole bunch of CDs in it, and I found this Blizzard Beast and a Brutal Truth record in it.
Wow.
So I was like, I wonder if this dude even knows he has this in here. So I was like, hey man, how much you want for this record? And it was this Blizzard Beast and that Brutal Truth record, and he was like, give me $1 for each of them and you
There you
good.
go.
And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I had been looking for this CD forever.
I have a similar
That's
story
good.
going to Rock Fantasy one time. It
Mm-hmm.
was like in the late 90s, and he had a couple pinball machines in the store at the time, and he stuck the albums underneath the pinball machines.
Albums,
People
that's
weren't
all
even
was
looking.
left.
They weren't
Nope.
even
They were like 8 tracks then, yeah.
Yeah, no one was even looking through them. So I was
Nah.
in there like every week, and then one week I just, we were hanging out, and I just started pulling out the crates that were underneath the thing, and I was just flipping through them, like, yo, how much are these albums? And you were just like, I don't know, grab a whole bunch of them, and they'll be like $1 a piece or something.
I
he said.
remember that.
So I was just like, I was going through, and I was like, oh shit. And I bought a bunch of them, and then I came back the following week and I bought like 50 of them, but they were like,
remember that.
$1 a piece. And it was just really cool stuff that I wouldn't have paid full price for. Like some weird like power metal bands and just stuff that that
Mhm.
look cool. But I was like, for $1, I'm like, I'm gonna give all. And now some of that shit is like worth like good money,
I'm sure. I think
I
even
like-
back then I was
now,
thinking
Steven.
I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't have sold those for $1. Ralph really wanted
You should
those.
you should
Maybe
have
he
stuck
knows
them in
better.
the basement.
I
No
You
should've-
should
shit.
have helped.
Then they would have been moldy by now, though.
If that dude
Oh.
would have known that, what this record was, he probably would have sold it to me for like $10. But he was like, yeah, give me $1 for it. I'll take it.
There you go.
I was like,
They
fuck
probably
it,
thought
yeah.
they were some like cheap Kiss ripoff band.
Well,
He's
the thing
"What?"
is that they have like a whole bunch of like these fucking way obscure black metal bands from like Russia and
Mhm.
all this stuff. And he used to know this guy who owned a distro, but he went out of business. So he has all the like duplicate copies of these fucking Ukraine black metal, Russian black metal that nobody ever goes through. And he's literally trying to get rid of them for like 50 cents. And that box was right next to him. I'm like, this ain't no obscure Russian fucking black metal band. So I was like, so that's why I asked him. I was like, hey, dude, how much for it? He was like, yeah, give me $1. I was like, fuck yeah.
So check it out. Somebody brought it to my attention one time, and I haven't been able to unhear it. Every now and again, I put an Immortal record on, or an Abbat solo record on, or I really like the band that he did. I
was good. Yep.
Oh, that fucking I record is so great.
Yep.
But goddamn, there are times when Abbat sounds just like Popeye.
Oh, I've heard this before. Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've heard that one went around the circles back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to unhear it.
Oh no.
Sometimes I put a record on, and I'm like, I can't do it right now.
Jeez.
Listen to
it's good to James. Good to James for
Motorhead.
What's that?
Sorry.
Obi.
Yeah.
Abbat has a cover band of Motorhead, and it sounds just like Lemmy. It's uncanny.
I've seen the videos of that. Yeah. What were you saying,
good?
Ralph?
I was just saying good on James for, he only knew the one album, so he was like, I'm not gonna do it. But you know what? You put in the time, you listen to the four. Hey, you didn't like them, but that's it. You listen to them. Maybe you would have got turned on to one of them. Even not liking them, you have one album that you champion. Like as long as I like one album, I'm in. If you pick 5 bands that I don't want to even listen to, I wouldn't do it. But if I have one that I like, I'll listen to the other 4. just to find things to shit on if I know I'm not
And
going to like it.
when
Some
James
kind of glam
when
band or
James
something.
said he might not do it, I said, "Well, dude, I hadn't listened to 3 of these albums and probably since the early 2000s or late 90s either." So yeah, I thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
I got a question for everybody a little bit, and maybe a lot of people probably aren't familiar, but Arcona are a Russian band, and I'm very surprised that they can come to the States and tour. But I thought that like it was kind of like this with being the war that I didn't think they could come here, but maybe Arcona no longer lives in Russia. Do you know that, Ovi? Where is Arcona from?
I know. I don't know that
You don't
band.
know. Oh, you don't know them at all because they were.
And technically, America's not at war with Russia.
No, they're not. But there's a war,
Yeah.
and we have terror. We have like things against them. There's no McDonald's there. There's no American products. Maybe I'm wrong, but I knew when the war first started,
They got
we put
all
a
the
lot of
American products. They
we,
just put the Russian name stuff to it. So McDonald's is
there
called
was
something else,
there was
but it's the same menu.
a lot of sanctions, and I wasn't sure. And I say, well, and Arcona has changed a lot because when Arcona first came around, they were like Ravenous knows that they were very folk metal.
And they are the most recent album, which I own, which came out like a year or two ago. It is all folk metal.
Folk metal.
And
And then I watched their performance last year, and I'm like, it's kind of weird they're coming with Belphegor, but now they seem way more in the black metal style. When I saw them perform, I was watching them from a European festival from last summer, and I'm like, I didn't really notice them with like because they used to play all those like ancient instruments and stuff. I didn't notice that. I noticed I was like, wow, she's become way more evil. So it definitely fits with the Belphegor show.
It's really hard for Russian artists nowadays because they can't send out their music. They can't get money from outside.
That's what I thought.
In Russia,
so maybe
in
they
Russia,
know
metal
maybe
is not really allowed. You can make it, but
Mhm.
it's very hard to sell. And like say, I know a girl. She sings in a band, but she likes. Oh God, what's the name of that band from Europe here? Aborted. But they can't.
Okay.
You can't sell aborted in Russia because it's illegal.
Okay.
So you have
Okay.
to import it and kind of take a chance that the people in the tolls don't confiscate it or report
Wow.
you or
Oh,
whatever.
well,
Okay.
when it was the Soviet Union, you couldn't get like anything. It was all like
No.
black market stuff, everything,
Yeah.
even movies, American
Yeah.
movies and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
And like North Korea right now, you can't get anything that has
Mhm.
that's Americanized.
Yeah.
Right.
They used to press records on literal X-rays.
Oh.
So you'd get like Metallica Master of Puppets on somebody's X-ray of their broken arm.
Ah,
Yeah, it's pretty
that's
crazy.
something, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the cheapest way they
Mhm.
could make them.
Well, anyhow, we're a little off topic, I guess now, but hey, I'd like to thank everybody for watching us tonight, and hope you've been digging what we've been doing with the channel. And please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. That really helps us out, and spread the word and share the video around on some social media and whatever else, and helps us build our little crew here of metal. And we talk a little bit about everything from the classic rock to the extreme metal on the channel. And I've been trying to do some interviews. One just went up tonight with New York City based band Imperial Triumphant. Was a nice interview. They're going to be going on the road supporting Mayhem here in the States very soon. So and I had a nice interview with John McAtee and saw the Decapitated, Incantation, Darkest Hour, and Ex Mortis tour the other night. And they actually broke down their bus about 15 minutes from here and missed their Montreal. So they had a really tough day yesterday, and they were stranded in the Hudson Valley. So very interesting. But they're in Ottawa tonight, and the tour's back on. So good for that. But people that are watching, please mention your favorite album from what we spoke in 1995. And for Obi, for Miles, Metal, and Ravenous, and James, and Count Ralphus, we'll see you next time on the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel. Rock on.